Stop waiting for life to present itself. It's already here. You just need to go live it. It has taken me 20 years to realize that, and in those 20 years, I spent too much time doing nothing, hoping some opportunity will come along. Sometimes it does, but more often than not, you have to actually pursue it. I've also realized life is better spent with the people you love, and while I stand by that, sometimes those people don't want to do anything. But that shouldn't hold you back.
Made it to the airport safely.
So we have two options. We can sit there, do nothing, wait and hope for adventure to arrive. Or we could start running, chase that adrenaline rush, and see where it takes us. I know what I want to do. And luckily for me, European travel is pretty damn cheap. Up till now, I've only ever gotten on a plane to go see a friend somewhere. But this weekend, I decided to stop waiting for people. No restrictions, no compromises, just the journey and me. Plus, I need to cross off a few more countries. So what's up first? Sweden, home of IKEA, meatballs, PewDiePie, and now my new favorite European city. I flew into Copenhagen airport and then immediately got on a 4-hour bus up north to Gothenburg. That was a brutal journey. Originally, the plan was just to make a day trip across the border to Sweden, but I decided I'd rather see a major city, and I'm so glad I did. I spent the first several hours just wandering the town. You see, the way I like to explore a new place is to just walk around the streets without a map or any guide. Get properly lost.
Going up there.
You'll never experience a place for what it really is if you only look at what is most popular. That's an idea I taught Xander back in Morocco, and it is something I have learned myself over time. I'm gonna come back to that idea of learning in a bit. The parks in this town, life-changing. They were all so beautiful and meticulously crafted to perfection. No trash in sight, clean-cut grass, spring flowers sprouting everywhere. Oh, they also had this thing called the Palm House. It was like this massive greenhouse for all these exotic plants. Why don't we have stuff like this in the States? At one point, I found myself at this lookout. Taking in the view from above town was when I realized I'd found my new favorite city, grabbing the previous first spot from Dublin. I'm sure part of that feeling was the rush and adrenaline of being in a new place with complete freedom on what I wanted to do.
I love this town so freaking much already. It's amazing. Honestly, it takes a spot. I don't even care. It's so cool.
But you can love a place for how it makes you feel. I spent the night in this old merchant bark, or like boat, which was remodeled into this semi-hotel. I'm gonna go off on a bit of a tangent, but I love the animated film, The Adventures of Tintin. And one of my favorite scenes is when they're on the Caribbean finding Captain Haddock. Well, spending the night on this boat made me feel like I was right there in the movie. The narrow hallways, portholes, and just the feel of the entire ship was such a blast of nostalgia and excitement.
Love traveling. This stuff is great.
My room was small, but exactly what I was looking for. And hey, breakfast the next morning wasn't half bad either.
Substantial breakfast. Usually they're not this big, so I'm impressed.
10 out of 10 would stay there again. After a restful night of sleep, I got up for an early morning run.
Good morning. I just woke up. I'm about to go for a run.
That is my second favorite way to explore a new place. You can cover so much distance by running. And those parks I was talking about earlier, perfect for a morning wake-up run. Before I left later that day, I checked out PewDiePie's childhood house, rode a bike around town to see the remaining beds, and got a delicious lunch in this indoor market. Why doesn't the rest of the world have these? Europeans just know how to do food and markets better. I made it back to Copenhagen late that evening.
Alright, made it to Copenhagen.
I think one thing most of my family and friends will say about me is that I'm really stubborn and unwilling to admit that my way might not always be the best. In my adventures, I've come to learn that I am not always right.
Why do you, maybe this isn't a toilet.
You wash your ass in that.
And people have some good advice to give. For example, getting up to Gothenburg and back, I rode a Flixbus. I actually didn't even know these existed until Xander and I met this really nice Australian girl at the Leaning Tower of Pisa. She told us all about them. I still think back on that moment and remember thinking there was no way she was right about Flixbus being cheap and reliable. But I'm sure glad I looked into it, as I wouldn't have been able to go to Gothenburg if it wasn't for her insight. Back in Copenhagen, I started my first morning off with bagels.
Good morning.
Favorite food, favorite breakfast.
Oh my god, stuff is expensive. I just got 2 bagels and a coffee, and it was $28. I'm gonna have to rethink stuff here. I did not realize it was that expensive.
Again, I spent the day wandering the city streets and losing myself in the chaos that was a massive city fire. Yeah, somehow I was exploring town the same day a historical building burned down. There was a frenzy and sadness in the air that made you stop for a second and feel the loss. I know I just said Gothenburg was my favorite European city, but this one comes really close. It honestly would probably take the first spot if it wasn't as crowded and big city feeling. I like a small town vibe. But it's still up there. Again, the parks here were unbelievable. The weather was perfect, and the town just had a glow to it that I loved. There was so much to see and explore, I knew I wouldn't even be able to remotely cover all of it. At the end of my journey, I went to an amusement park in town and spent hours riding all of the roller coasters. The adrenaline rush and drop in my chest was intoxicating. The ups and downs of the rides reminded me that this journey, like all, has highs and lows. Yeah, I mean, it would have been great to share these memories with someone, but at the end of the day, I would rather have this adventure to remember than a weekend of wondering what could have been. It's a good reminder for me in the future. Oh, Xander, that's 2 more according to my count.